What does it take to truly belong? Money? Status? Or is it something unspoken? An invisible standard that only certain people are allowed to meet? The question lingered the moment Serena Caldwell stepped onto the gleaming marble floor of Maison de Bijou, one of the most exclusive jewelry boutiques in London. The scent of fresh roses mixed with polished wood, the quiet hum of wealth draped over every corner of the space. Yet beneath its elegance, something else thrived, something colder, a quiet judgment, a subtle calculation of who deserved to be here and who did not. Serena had spent years breaking through barriers, turning obstacles into stepping stones. She had fought for every seat at every table, carved her way into rooms that were never meant for her. This day was supposed to be a celebration of that victory. She had just secured the biggest deal of her career, a multi-million-pound real estate acquisition that would redefine the London skyline. She had earned this moment. The necklace shimmered behind the glass, an exquisite arrangement of flawless diamonds, its platinum frame catching the boutique's golden light. The celeste, the heavenly, the name suited it. Serena stepped closer, her fingertips hovering just above the display when she felt it at a gaze. She turned slightly, her eyes locking onto the boutique's manager, Harold Langley. He stood near the counter, his posture rigid, his expression carefully blank. But Serena had seen this look before. The barely concealed suspicion, the quiet disbelief that someone like her could belong in a place like this. She had lived this moment too many times. "I'd like to see this one," she said, her voice smooth, unwavering. Harold hesitated. Just for a second. Just long enough. Then, with measured precision, he nodded toward a sales associate, who retrieved the necklace from its velvet-lined case with gloved hands. Yet even as the shimmering piece was placed before her, the tension in the air remained. Harold's gaze flickered toward the entrance, his fingers tapping against the glass counter, subtle but telling. Serena ignored it. She lifted the necklace carefully, letting the weight of it rest against her fingers. "It was perfect. I'll take it," she said, her decision firm. A pause. A hesitation too deliberate to be ignored. "That will be £250,000, Harold said, his voice polite but edged with something unspoken. Serena reached into her handbag and retrieved a sleek black card, its platinum surface catching the light. She held it out effortlessly, a silent challenge embedded in the simple act. Harold hesitated again. Another second too long. His fingers hovered over the card, but he didn't take it. Instead, his gaze flicked to one of his employees. A silent exchange, a barely perceptible nod. Across the boutique, a sales associate discreetly reached for the store's phone. Serena noticed. She had seen this before, the quiet exchange of glances, the tightening of the air, the verdict passed before she had even spoken a word. Her pulse remained steady, but her stomach tightened. She arched a brow, her voice deceptively calm. "Is there a problem?" Harold's smile was practiced, but his eyes betrayed him. "Not at all, madam." Yet even as he spoke, his gaze flickered toward the entrance. The boutique doors swung open with calculated authority. Two uniformed officers strode inside, their hands resting lightly on their holsters, not drawn but ready. A message more than a necessity. The quiet hum of the store vanished. Customers shifted, whispers threading through the air. The boutique, so accustomed to its carefully curated elegance, now pulsed with something heavier. One of the officers, tall and broad-shouldered, surveyed the space before settling his eyes on Harold. "We received a report about a fraudulent transaction." Serena exhaled slowly, measured, controlled. "Here we go." The older officer, his graying temples adding weight to his authority, took a step forward. His expression was unreadable, but Serena had seen this play before. The assumption, the expectation, the quiet demand that she justify her own presence. "Madam, do you have identification?" Serena reached into her handbag with deliberate movements, her posture poised, her fingers brushing against her wallet when, "Excuse me, officer," a deep, commanding voice cut through the tension. Every head in the boutique turned as the doors swung open once more. Demand stepped inside, his presence undeniable, his tailored suit crisp, his expression unreadable. His gaze locked onto the officers with an authority that rivaled their own. And in that instant, the entire room shifted. Serena felt her pulse steady, because now the real confrontation was about to begin. Serena Caldwell stood motionless, her fingers still curled around the edge of the glass counter. The weight of every watching eye pressed against her, waiting, expecting. She had faced these moments before, the silent verdicts passed before she even opened her mouth, the unspoken belief that she did not belong. But this was beyond mere suspicion. The older officer exhaled and handed back her ID. Card is valid. No reports of fraud. A shift rippled through the room. Yet Serena didn't relax. Just because the truth was revealed didn't mean the damage was undone. Edward Langley cleared his throat. Officers, I only called because high-value transactions require extra scrutiny. I was simply following protocol. Liard, Serena's jaw clenched, but she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her anger. The younger officer placed her platinum card back on the counter, avoiding her gaze. So are we done here? Serena asked, her voice calm but edged with steel. Langley faltered, scrambling for control over the situation. Of course, Miss Caldwell. Just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. That was what they always called it. When security followed her in luxury boutiques. When she was asked if she needed assistance before browsing. When she was stopped, questioned, doubted. She retrieved her card and slipped it back into her handbag. Then I assume my purchase is ready? Langley hesitated before signaling to a sales associate, who quickly retrieved the necklace. The transaction was complete. Serena took the bag, her movements precise, her expression unreadable. She had won, but the victory felt hollow. As she turned to leave, a deep, authoritative voice cut through the silence. Miss Caldwell. She stopped. Slowly, she turned. Standing at the entrance, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, was Alexander Caldwell, her father. A man whose presence alone commanded any room. Serena tightened her grip on the boutique's black shopping bag before forcing her fingers to relax. She had expected this day to end when she left the store. But now, she knew it wasn't over. Her father's gaze swept over the scene. First, the officers, who stood stiffly. Then Langley, who seemed to shrink under the weight of his presence. And finally, Serena. Would someone like to explain to me, Alexander said, his voice calm yet sharp as steel, why my daughter was accused of fraud and interrogated over a valid transaction? Langley stiffened. He forced a nervous laugh. Mr. Caldwell, I was simply being cautious. You understand, in a store like this, with a purchase of this size. Alexander cut him off with a flick of his wrist. I watched the security footage. Langley paled. I saw you hesitate before she even spoke. I saw you judge her the moment she walked in. And I saw you call the police before she even completed her purchase. Silence. Langley's hands twitched. Mr. Caldwell, please. I have worked for Maison de Bijoux for 10 years. I've always acted in the best interest of the store. No, Alexander said, his voice devoid of sympathy. You acted in your own interest. And because of that, you just cost this store far more than a single necklace. Langley turned sharply toward Serena, desperation creeping into his voice. Miss Caldwell, I was only doing what I thought was necessary. She studied him. He hadn't been sorry when he called the police. He hadn't been sorry when she stood there, humiliated. He was only sorry now, because his own security was at risk. She said nothing. Alexander exhaled. You're fired. The words echoed through the boutique. A collective gasp followed. Langley flinched. What? You're fired, Alexander repeated, absolute. Effective immediately. Langley's breath hitched. Sir, please, I didn't mean. Clean out your office. Security will escort you out. Silence fell like a final verdict. Langley turned to Serena, but she had already turned away. Alexander faced her. Serena, I sincerely apologize for what you endured. This is not how we conduct business at Maison de Bijoux. Serena held his gaze, weighing his words. Apologies were easy. Responsibility was rare. She lifted her chin. See that it never happens again. With that, she walked out, each step a reminder that she had been here, that she had been seen, and that she would not be erased. Serena Caldwell stepped out of Maison de Bijoux, the cool evening air settling over her like a quiet embrace. The weight of the boutique's signature black shopping bag in her hand felt heavier than just a necklace. It carried the burden of everything she had endured inside. The humiliation, the scrutiny, the injustice. Her phone vibrated incessantly inside her purse. She knew without looking that the world outside those glass doors had already seen what happened. The whispers had spread, the headlines had been written, and the battle had begun long before she had even left the store. Taking a deep breath, she retrieved her phone. Countless messages flooded her screen, but one stood out. Maya, you're trending. Are you okay? Serena hesitated for only a second before clicking on the link Maya had sent. A video loaded, a shaky recording, but clear enough. The boutique. The officers. Harold Langley's damning words. The accusation. The way she had stood her ground. She inhaled slowly. The truth was out now. There was no controlling the narrative, no quieting the storm. This was bigger than just her. By the time she reached Caldwell Enterprises, the city's towering skyline reflected against the glass walls of her office. Serena knew she had a decision to make. Maya was waiting, pacing near her desk with a tablet in hand, her expression tense. He wants to meet, Maya said, not wasting a moment. Edward Langley. He's offering a formal apology, a statement condemning discrimination, and a sizable donation to a cause of your choosing. Serena stared out at the city lights, considering. Maison de Bijou wasn't just scrambling to salvage its reputation. They were trying to silence the backlash before it became uncontainable. She turned back to Maya, her voice calm, unwavering. Tell him I'll meet him. The meeting was set for the next morning at Langley's private office. When Serena arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. Edward Langley sat across from her, the weight of the moment pressing into the space between them. I want to start by saying I deeply regret what happened, Langley began, his voice even. Maison de Bijou has always prided itself on exclusivity, but that exclusivity should never come at the cost of discrimination. Serena remained silent, waiting. He shifted slightly, sensing she wouldn't be easily placated. Harold Langley has been terminated, and we are launching a full review of our training and policies. In addition, we are prepared to make a generous contribution to a charity of your choice. Serena leaned forward, placing her hands on the polished wood desk between them. Money doesn't erase what happened, she said, her voice steady. It doesn't undo the years of people like Harold Langley making women like me feel like we don't belong. Langley hesitated. What do you want? She met his gaze, unflinching. Real change. Over the next hour, she laid out her terms. Not just a donation, but a long-term commitment. Diversity in hiring. Bias training for all employees. A visible stance against discrimination, not just behind closed doors, but in every aspect of their branding. That'd be why the time she left, the deal was sealed. Not a quiet payout, not a buried apology, but a transformation. A shift in the foundation of a world that had for too long been built to exclude. Today, she stepped out onto the bustling London streets. A strange sense of weightlessness filled her chest. She had fought battles before, but this one wasn't just for her. It was for every woman who had been doubted before she spoke. Every person who had been made to feel lesser, simply for existing where others thought they shouldn't. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Maya. Maya, they just released a statement. People are calling you a game changer. Serena allowed herself a small, knowing smile. Maybe she was. Adjusting the strap of her bag, she walked forward, not as a victim, not as a lesson to be learned, but as a force that would no longer be ignored. The battle was won, but the fight for change had only just begun.